So my name is John Weir. I am a Max Planck Research Group Leader here at the Friedrich Miescher Laboratory in Tübingen. And my research really entails trying to understand how sperm and egg cells, how they're made, and really with a particular focus on how the genome from each parent is passed on properly to the sperm and egg cells. So you get half your DNA from each parent, which is true, and therefore 1/4 from each grandparent. And that bit is not quite true. And that's in fact to do with the way in which when parents make sperm and egg cells, in order to make them properly, they need to basically put half of their genome into that sperm or egg cell so that their children inherit half of their DNA. But that's not an equal packaging, half and half. So when a parent generates sperm or egg cells, they don't put in 1/4 from each grandparent. It can be a lot more of one grandparent and a lot less of the other. And that's to do with a phenomenon called meiotic recombination. So this is a reshuffling of the meiotic, reshuffling of the genome during meiosis, which is this process of making sperm and egg genomes. So young people are fertile and old people are infertile. So I think to a certain extent it's true that certainly older people have a lower level of fertility, and in fact particularly older women have a lower level of fertility. But young people, in fact recent research has shown that young people, so those that are on the onset of puberty, they also have fertility problems, in fact particularly young men, and that can also increase the risk of passing on a genetic disease with the wrong number of chromosomes, for example, the best known of which would be Down syndrome. DNA is a fixed, unchanging code. So I think there's two answers to this, or two means of dismissing the myth. One is that for every generation, there are small alterations that occur within our DNA, within our genome. Most of those alterations are harmless. Some are problematic, or can become problematic, and occasionally they're beneficial. But I think more importantly, the idea is that our genome responds to the environment. So different genes are activated in response to the environment or in response to different phases of development. And that means that although the underlying code is the same, the way in which it's read out changes.
And then what have you got there? What's
right.
Next?
The next myth is you start generating sperm and eggs at puberty. So that's true for sperm, but it's not true for eggs. So I think this is one of these actually really fascinating facts is that in fact the generation of eggs starts in utero. So that means is that female babies start making their eggs while they are already in the womb of their mother. And that means, in fact, that you can think about that. It means, in fact, that grandmothers can actually influence the health of their grandchildren if they are pregnant with a girl. But then basically this generation of eggs stops, and then it's reactivated at the onset of puberty.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So making a baby is just about a sperm meeting an egg, and it's as simple as that. So this is getting a little bit further outside of my field of expertise, but certainly it is more complicated. So certainly what is required is that the sperm and the egg are healthy, that they have particularly they have the right number of chromosomes. And that's certainly something that my research is really trying to understand how the right number of chromosomes get passed on. But then, of course, there are other things to consider, which is actually that fertilized egg then actually is able to successfully implant and grow. So there are another number of factors to that, and I think we know that. I mean, a lot of people who want to have children struggle. It can sometimes be very much a challenge, and many different reasons relating to that. Yeah. Natural selection is about survival of the strongest. So I think natural selection is really about the survival of the best adapted. So being well adapted to your environment is not necessarily about being strong. It can be depending upon what the problem is, right? Where there is a limitation. So in fact, it can be that, if a particular resource is limited, if an organism is very efficient with using that resource, they can actually be small and weak. But if they're efficient using a limiting resource, they have an advantage. So it's about adaptation and having an advantage over competition rather than strength. Yeah.